This is ND Insider's Pot of Gold. Now, with all things Notre Dame football, here's Tom Noy, Mike Berardino, and Austin Huff.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Pot of Gold. We started, that was a bit of a misleading intro in that Tom Noy is on assignment. That's what we like to say in the podcast world. He's on assignment.
Where? I don't know, but he's on assignment.
It's parts unknown, secret location. But this is Pot of Gold, the South Bend Tribune and NDinsider.com podcast where we talk all things Notre Dame football. I'm Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and I'm joined today in the historic WNDU Studios, home of the Countdown to Kickoff Notre Dame football pregame show, by Tribune sports writer, my cohort, my teammate, Austin Huff.
We're teammates, finally.
Austin Huff, as we recap fall. We're going to recap fall camp and look ahead to Notre Dame's season openers coming up very soon, right around the corner. We're week zero. This is week zero eve.
We're into single digits days away from the game being happening. That's
right?
pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
As at least nine or less days, depending on when you listen to this
That's right.
podcast.
So it's all coming up. It's right ahead of us. And so we thought that we're going to have a very special guest joining us later in the podcast. You're going to want to stick around for Dr. Len Clark, and he's going to break down his visitor's guide to Dublin. We're going to get to the bottom of whether he is known as Lord Mayor of football in Dublin or not, but I think he's a worthy person for that, and he's going to let you know. There's 40,000 people apparently leaving these shores, heading over to Dublin next week. I'll be among them, and I did ask Len. I will ask Len for some advice on how to handle myself over there because I need that kind of help. But I'll tell you what I didn't need help with, Austin. Maybe you did, but we'll see if we agree. Some predictions. They're going to be available at ndinsider.com as soon as Friday morning. It's going to be displayed prominently in our Sunday sports section at South Bend Tribune. We thank all of our subscribers, our readers, those who have stuck with us through the years, and those who are curious and want to know what we're about. Well, we're going to give you a little taste of what the predictions are, and we aim to be against the grain, at least I do, whenever possible. So we'll see if we achieve that. But let's start with Notre Dame football regular season record. This, by the way, all these questions, if you don't like the questions, address your if you don't like any of these categories, you can address your complaints to our sports editor, Michael Wanbaugh, at South Bend Tribune. And he will...
Wanbaugh at sptinfo.com.
If you just don't like these questions, or if you don't like the answers, blame Austin. You don't like the questions, it's Mr. Wanbaugh. Okay. Notre Dame regular season record. Austin, what do you have them? And let's we'll kind of go rapid fire here, but not all of them. But what do you think this year is going to hold?
9-3. I think it's 9-3. I think maybe they pull an upset in one of their big three games, whether it be, I think the home games specifically, they have a better chance to win, whether it be Ohio State or USC, not sure which one, but they will win one of those, lose the other two, being Clemson and then one of those other home games, and then they'll play a valiant Citrus Bowl against Tennessee. That's my prediction.
All right. And so I am really afraid that right out of the chute we agree on something because that's not good podcast. And I also have 9-3, and I'm thinking it's just like you're saying, a split with Ohio State and USC. What do you think's more likely in that scenario, that Notre Dame on green jersey, green pants night beats Ohio State, but then loses to Super Caleb Williams, the Heisman, in middle October, or the reverse? What do you think's more likely? I think it's what I just laid out there.
I think I agree too. I think it's more likely they beat Ohio State. USC is a rivalry game, so there's going to be those emotions. But if I were a betting man, love to play the in theory game. Notre Dame should be 4-0. Probably going into Ohio State, they're going to be favored at least in their first four games. Should be able to take care of business, get some momentum building up to a big game like that. USC will be the last game of their 8 straight weeks of playing to start the season, or 8 straight weeks to start the season of playing. And so they might be tired. I know they probably won't be jet lagged still anymore from going to Ireland, but that could be also potentially you travel across the country and then you play 7 more weeks after that. Like, how are they going to be feeling at USC? Ohio State feels like they're going to still have some energy to maybe get it up and beat a big-time opponent at their stadium that they don't see often. Second time ever that Ohio State's ever come here.
All right, let's move ahead to some of the fun questions that you can find on our predictions at ndinsider.com as soon as Friday morning and in print on Sunday at South Bend Tribune. What would cause an ND Nation panic? Austin?
If you start how you started last year, I'm going to, if you struggle against Navy.
Marshall's not on the schedule.
I know. Okay. I'm aware Marshall's not there. Right. Maybe if you don't look great against Navy or Tennessee State or both, sluggish at times, win those games but barely, and then you lose at NC State. So you're 2-1, but you haven't looked great in any of the games. That I think would be cause for concern. I mean, you and I were both here last year. Remember the uproar after the Marshall game, and even after the Cal game that they needed to come back to beat week 3, like kind of saved their season in a lot of ways. So if they kind of look sluggish in their first 3 weeks and then, 2-1 and lost to NC State, like I think there's going to be some panicking, especially with Ohio State looming 2 weeks after that.
I just want to reassure our readers and listeners that all those words Austin just uttered in rapid fire fashion, that was the assignment, are not going to be on the website or in print because we don't have that much space for all those words. He was in long-term radio mode, and he's going to go into rapid fire mode now. So I won't even give you my answer on that one. Okay. Freshman surprise. Freshman surprise. Just give me the name.
Jaden Greathouse, wide receiver.
I went with Christian Gray. I think they're both going to be excellent. Let's see what the next question that would be fun for a podcast would be. Well, sack leader on this team this year, and the total, well, we'll just go sack leader. It'll be simpler here. I went with Jalen Sneed, and I know that's going to be controversial, if not a head scratcher, because they're like, well, he's not a Viper. Well, no, not technically. He's technically a Rover, but I just keep thinking of how unblockable he was when he was asked to pressure the quarterback in the Gator Bowl. This is a 5-star talent. He's the only 5-star talent on the team, and in these limited looks. And again, I'm breaking my own rule.
I was going to say
Jalen Sneed is my pick. I think the total to lead this team will not be Foskey-esque. It might be single digits, high single digits. Who did you pick?
I picked Jordan Patello because I just feel like he almost kind of has to be. I feel like if the defensive line is going to be good this year, Jordan Patello will probably be the guy getting the sacks with Mills and Cross kind of plugging up the middle. So Jordan Patello is my pick.
Is that because you can't pronounce Junior's last name?
Junior T. No, can't do it. Not going to try. You can find it on ndinsider.com, UND.com if you want to really find their roster on there. So, yeah, Junior Tuiakala.
Nope, Tui Halamaka.
Close enough.
Tui Halamaka. It's fun to say. Once you say it a few times. And he's a wonderful interview, a fine young man, and what a player.
Yes.
Nearly unblockable. Trap game, what do you got?
Duke, right after the Ohio State game.
All right, so do I. That's enough. And I think I imagine if they win Ohio State, they beat Ohio State, and then they go down and they play at always
Duke.
Difficult Wallace Wade Stadium where there's about 45 people, and they're asked to play a game without green pants. And like, what do we
do?
Against Mike Elko's team?
For transparency's sake, Mike's a North Carolina grad.
Yeah, well, sure. I
just wanted to. I know Duke's. He said nothing wrong about Duke football. I just wanted to, people for transparency's sake.
Sure. No.
If that felt slanderous against Duke football, I just wanted to.
It's historic. It
is.
Wallace Wade Stadium's historic. They once played a Rose Bowl there during
World
War II. Let's see. Best player that Notre Dame. This was a good question from Michael Wamba. Best player Notre Dame will face in 2023.
I gave the generic answer of Caleb Williams because it's hard to pick against the Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Oh, I think it is when he puts the stuff on his fingernails that he does. I can't endorse any of that, including there was a message toward Notre Dame that it was amazing how that didn't blow back into any of the vote. Anybody who hadn't cast their Heisman vote yet that took the time to see what that guy put on his fingernails and was spotted with it.
The question is the best player. I don't care what he puts on his fingernails. Caleb Williams was the Heisman Trophy winner last year, so I mean,
what if he had said that first word, Austin Huff?
I was just trying to answer the question objectively. Who is the best player Notre Dame will face in 2023? Okay. It's hard to go against the Heisman Trophy winner.
Okay, yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Also a great pick.
Marvin Harrison
High
Jr.
on the list.
I'm going with. We just want to go rapid fire. 4 teams, and we don't want to give it all away. We have many more questions.
There's plenty in this preview.
Check this out. It's a tremendously comprehensive list, and I spent at least 8 minutes considering my answers. 4-team field in the college football playoff. I'm going to guess that we agree on my first 2.
Who are your first two?
Do you think we agree or not?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say we do agree.
Probably Georgia.
Yes.
And Michigan.
Yes.
And then I have two, because I have not seen your top four in the playoff. I'm pretty sure that they're boring and obvious.
My picks?
Yep.
No.
And mine are fun and sexy.
Mine are not boring. I don't think they're boring.
They're sexy. What do you have?
I have Florida State and Washington.
Oh, wow.
Because Michael Penix Jr. will win the Heisman Trophy from Washington.
Wow.
So Washington to the playoff in the final year of the Pac-12. They're going to get a playoff team again.
Is that just your Big Ten future bias?
Yes,
in there?
as you know, big Big Ten guy over here as a Missouri grad. So
well, you're from Chicago. Then.
I'm a Midwest guy. Yeah.
Don't know what to make of you. Missouri's been in like 8 different leagues.
You know what Chicago's Big Ten team is? You know what Chicago's Big Ten team is? Notre Dame. So that's
But Washington,
why not?
Michael.
Let's have some fun picks.
Junior started his career at Indiana, lefty.
Everyone in the state will react accordingly when Michael Penix wins the Heisman this year.
Who's the last left-handed quarterback
as the lefty ever
win the Heisman?
Tim Tebow.
He was left-handed.
He was left-handed,
but he threw like he was right-handed. Okay, so but he did that, and then the last two for me would be because you're against a 4-team playoff.
Last year of it.
Texas. I feel better by the minute about putting Texas in there. I know that Texas usually spits up on itself, but they have so much returning talent, and they lost last year. All their losses were, I believe, they lost 4 times. And as an AP voter, I got crushed for keeping Texas higher than the field typically did by fellow voters. And it was because they kept losing close games. I think their total loss, including a 1-point loss to Alabama last year, was something like 4 losses by like 8 points total. I mean, it was just a series of maybe 2, all 1 scores for sure. And then I have Oregon State. And speaking of AP vote, I didn't put Oregon State in my top 25 purposely. I'm crazy like a fox because everybody says, well, who's this year's TCU? They started out from outside the top 25, made it all the way to the final. Oregon State, very friendly schedule. They have another name that I have committed to memory.
I know how to say their quarterback's name now, yeah.
What's the name of the new Oregon State quarterback, Austin?
DJ Uyunglele.
Now you got me questioning myself.
It is.
I want to say it's Uyunglele.
Uyunglele? I thought it was Uyunglele.
Yeah, that's the DJ's out there.
DJU.
That's right, DJU. So
he didn't look great at Clemson the last couple years, so I'm a little nervous about them.
No, I just think they're a power team. They play out there. It's always raining in Corvallis. Very difficult. Utah's got to go there. Your aforementioned Washington has to go there. And I have great respect for the Utah program. They're an interesting pick. I believe previous guest on this program, John Bryce, has identified them as a team that would be the surprise in that Final Four. But who do you have for the other 2 entrants in this year's college football playoff?
We already talked about it. Florida State and Washington.
Who do you have? I wasn't listening.
Florida State and Washington.
Oh,
Georgia and Michigan we agreed on. Florida State, Washington, my other 2 picks.
Man, I've got to learn to listen to you. And then finally,
Mike B, everybody. I'm just giving you a hard time, Mike. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, get in the gym. Okay, here we go.
Wow.
Three Heisman finalists. We'll leave it at this. I believe you already.
Yeah, I already gave my. I'm gonna take Penix to win it. I think Caleb Williams will get back there because I think they're going to be really good again. And Jordan Travis too, quarterback Florida State, because I think Florida State's good. Jordan Travis will be pretty elite, so I'm gonna go Jordan Travis, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, quarterback. It's a quarterback award now. The only one that's not a quarterback this year, maybe I'm taking away from your answer, but Marvin Harrison Jr. Feels like the only guy that's not a quarterback that could win this thing this year.
Yeah, I do have Marvin Harrison Jr. on there, kind of depending on Kyle McCord's ability to get him the ball, but they're former high school teammates. There should be comfort right out of the chute. I also have, you mentioned I went to Carolina. This is not why I have Drake May, but I did cover his dad as a player way back when I was an undergraduate and an excellent gentleman, a fine quarterback as well. And Drake May is, beats you running or throwing. And then I have Audric Estime on there because I believe Audric is going to get the ball more than people realize. We've been talking so much Sam Hartman as we should, but and I know they have some other options. They now call it a 5-headed monster. The most monstrous of those 5 is still Audric, and I have him going well past 1,000 yards. And I just think if Notre Dame has the season it's it's going to expect to have, Estime was the guy that popped on there. All right, well, the rest of it, you can check it out at ndinsider.com on Friday morning and or in our print pages of Sunday's sports section of the South Bend Tribune. We're going to leave it there because we have a special guest coming up next. It'll be Dr. Len Clark to talk about his online visitor's guide to all things Dublin, and stick around for that. Welcome back to Pot of Gold, your source for banter about Notre Dame football and occasionally things that you might want to jot down and commit to memory. This is Mike Berardino, a Notre Dame football beat writer for the South Bend Tribune, joined as always by Austin Huff, my cohort at the South Bend Tribune. How you doing, Austin?
Oh, doing great, Mike. Good to see you again, hear your voice. This is a fun adventure in this new podcast room at WNDU. Thank you to our fine partners at WNDU for helping us get this all set up and make us look pretty.
Well, we have a guest here that's going to outshine us all, I believe, with his dulcet tones and his academic credentials and his good looks. And that is Len Clark, our good friend. How you doing, Len?
Hey, Mike and Austin. How are you doing? Great to see you guys, and thank you for having me on the program.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you always. And but in this case, because we're coming up fast on Notre Dame's historic return to Dublin, we thought we'd go to the source for it's going to be a record number of people traveling abroad from America for any event, I believe, but especially for a college football game. And this is the author of Len Clark's Guide to Discovering Dublin. What should people know about it? Where can they find it? And then we're going to grill you on it because it's chock full, if that's something they say in Dublin, I don't know, of information.
Well, thank you so much again for having me on the program to talk about my second home, Dublin. It was a labor of love putting the guide together, and I'll tell you a little story how it came about. Last fall, I was teaching an online course at Michigan State, and I introduced a new tool that was introduced called ChatGPT. And I said, you can do anything. You can write a travel guide like a guide to Dublin. And then the light bulb went off in my head. And in February, after the football season, I had a chance to go over to Dublin. And I spent a month putting the guide together, going out and getting some sponsorship. And it was embraced warmly by the Irish people because they said if it's anything like 2012 when Notre Dame last played at Aviva Stadium, it's going to be like Christmas for 12 days. And everything just came together, and I just can't believe we're 9 days away from the start of the 2023 college football season.
So when you think about there's so much that's in this, I mean, I believe it's 100 plus pages, right? How many pages you go here?
It's about 100.
Yeah, so chock full. How hard was it to get that welcome by the Lord Mayor of Dublin? And what will happen to me if I fail to address her as Lord Mayor?
All it takes is effective communication skills. I reached out to her office. I explained what we were trying to do and to welcome over 40,000 Americans, the largest deployment of Americans to Europe since D-Day. And they embraced it. They said, what would you like? And I said, I'd like a picture and a little warm welcome. And so she sent it to me, and that was added along with a little description about education, the arts, the food scene in Dublin, and then the sponsors. I really want to say thank you to Aer Lingus that really made this possible, in addition to Do Dublin Bus. And I wrote it as a guide to help people maximize their time and fun in Dublin, because I remember the first time that I went there. Actually, the first time I was in Dublin.
You do not remember the first time. I don't believe that. I believe that it's all a haze.
I've had Ireland before, but in the southern part in Kerry and County Cork. But I'd never been to Dublin. But Mike and Austin, as you know, I'm an early adopter of mobile journalism technology, and that's what I teach. And I was representing a Canadian company that specialized in application for mobile journalism. And back then, there was a small group of individuals, innovators from around the world, and one of the individuals was located at RTE, the national broadcaster, in Ireland. And so I said, I'm coming over to cover the game. So he brought me over. We went to RTE, and we helped found an international mobile journalism group called Mojo Fest. And in 2015, we met for the first time. We met every year up until COVID. And so that has really developed my connection with Ireland, because I've been going over there for every year. I do a lot of consulting, and I actually teach a course in mobile journalism storytelling for the Irish Academy of Public Relations. And so I go over as much as I can. I was over there in June, early July, putting the final touches on the guide, and final touches on something that we're really proud about, raising funds for Our Lady's Children's Hospital in Dublin, and we've got some great prizes to give away for individuals who make a donation, and I'll send you the link so you can put it on the South Bend Tribune site. You don't need to go to the game in Dublin. Winner need not be present, but we've got some interesting prizes, which include a Joe Montana Guinness signed football.
That's an awesome gift right there. Len, what was maybe the hardest part of putting this thing together?
The hardest part was actually in hearing the word no, and I was only told no by one business, and that was Butler's Chocolate. And they felt so guilty about it, they sent me a voucher for 3 hot chocolates. No, everywhere I went, I was embraced. Now, I went to a lot of friends and connections that I have. So if you look at the book, there are a lot of walking tours and cycling tours, and Do Dublin opened up a lot of tours, opened up a lot of connections as well. But every place I went, and the great thing, Austin, is that the sponsors actually invited me in to experience their business or their service. So I got to go on the vintage tea tour and have a cup of tea and a scone as they drove around Dublin. And then my favorite, and the first time I did this was in 2012, the Waldorf Barbers. I got a shave and a haircut. I call it my man spa day. And on Friday before the game, I actually have an appointment set up before our big event at the bar, which is one of our official pubs to really raise money for the Our Lady's Children's Hospital. And so I've got my man spa. I'm looking more forward to that than the game.
Waldorf Barbers, by the way, established in 1929. That's a long time ago. It's way before any of us were alive. So,
hey, Len, we're speaking with Len Clark, Mr. Ireland. Can we call you that, Mr. Ireland?
Well,
Lord Mayor.
My second home, it is.
The Lord Mayor in perpetuity, Len Clark, with his guide to the travelers. Let's get the official title for you one more time, because that's important. You want to find out, we'll have a
Len Clark's Guide to Discovering Dublin.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about these 2 people you mentioned, because some of this stuff, I 100% believe you. I don't think you would lead me astray, but I'm not so sure about Mark and Missy, and I don't know who they are, and they're mentioned here. They don't have last names. I'm thinking Mork and Mindy. And I don't know that I'd want to go on a scenic cliff tour with Mork and Mindy. So who are these people?
Well, first of all, Howth is a seaside resort area, and it's one of my favorite places to go to in Dublin. So I wanted to do an outdoor activity for the people coming over to get outside of the city center, either go up to Bray or over to Howth.
Sober up a little bit, maybe.
And Mark and Missy's hiking pints. And I showed up. Mark said, "Come on out to Howth. I'll give you the tour." And I got there and I introduced myself and I said, "Where's Missy?" And he goes, "Missy's my dog." And so Missy actually joins the group on the tour. She's very photogenic. She's very well trained. And when you're walking around Howth where the dock is, there are a lot of seals and sea lions that are there. And so Missy has a pretty good rapport with them. And so she'll bark at them and they'll come in and people can get a picture taken with the seals. But yeah, that was my faux pas when I said, "Where's Missy?" That's my dog.
Missy's gone missing.
There's a picture of you, by the way, in one of the first pages, and you're holding an ice cream cone. Where is that at?
Murphy's Ice Cream. Ireland has the best ice cream because the dairy comes from the county of Kerry, the kingdom, and that's every American traces their roots back, and that's where I traced my family heritage. But Murphy's Ice Cream is based in Dingle, but they have ice cream shops in Dublin, and it is an ice cream that is the best you'll ever taste. Now, we do have a little bit of a special for individuals going to Murphy's Ice Cream, which is located in the city center. They are actually naming a flavor after Irish Illustrated, and so I was trying to get it named after me, but they said, "No, we'll put it on that." So I think it's Irish Illustrated Mint. But their most famous flavor is brown bread. And you would think, ice cream after a bread? No, it's kind of like a very rich tasting vanilla. And I'm very appreciative that they were included in the guide as well.
By the way, you can also buy Len either a pint, cup of tea, or coffee in the guide right there at the beginning. So if you want to donate to Len's cause, because he's going to be over there for a while, feel free to do that as well.
Well, I
Then,
did that to kind of get a gauge of how many people downloaded it and appreciate it. So it's kind of like doing radio or television ratings to say, hey, are you watching, viewing, listening, or what have you? So we'll see. I haven't got any yet, but the game hasn't been kicked off yet.
Len, I also want to ask about, I think, the folks who aren't making the trip over there but still would like to enter for a chance to win that Joe Montana autograph ball. Are they able to do that even if they don't even leave their homes?
Exactly. You don't need to go to the game in Ireland or go to the bar, which is where we're going to have our big day. All day on Friday, I'm going to be there in welcome.
Oh, we lost Len.
Oh, no.
We lost the video and audio of Len.
And the most important part, too, as far as most looking forward to, is how to get a free Joe Montana ball.
Yeah, I don't think everyone gets a free Joe Montana ball.
He'll rejoin us. He's the most tech savvy certainly of anybody who's speaking on this thing.
Hey, I'm a millennial, okay? I know technology, all right? Everyone, yeah, come on. This guy he's a TV producer. He knows his technology, right?
Yeah, this is live television if I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, surprise.
It's fine.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to bring up with Len, and maybe that's why he cut out, because I had a bone to pick, and this will shock you that I was going to take it in this direction, but he has something here where he's talking about Aviva Stadium, which is also known as Lansdowne Road Stadium. That's something that, and it's in the Ballsbridge neighborhood of Dublin. That's not what I was going to bring up, Austin.
Mike, I'm interrupting you. We have somebody who might just be making their way back. Let's take a look.
Hey, there's Len.
Oh, look at that.
We got Len back. Talk about Joe Montana football.
Welcome back. Yes.
Ballsbridge. Ballsbridge is where Aviva Stadium is, and it's also where the U.S. Embassy is. So if you have a little issue, you might need to go to the embassy then.
Really, Ballsbridge it's a word that it brings. I'm so compelled to say it like Beavis, and I'm sorry that I just want to say that, but I won't do that. I want to ask you about also with Aviva. You rattled off a few of the famous acts that have played there, and I don't think are there any concerts available in the run-up that we should or the travelers should have in mind as they get to Dublin? Anything must see? Because you mentioned in order big names in music like Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, and Ireland's own U2, and I just think you have that order all screwed up. But who's getting Ed Sheeran shouldn't even be in there.
I think that was alphabetical order.
Well, all the great artists are going to be playing Friday night at the 3 Arena for the Notre Dame pep rally and big shindig. So, but no, Aviva Stadium was built by the architect that designed the Beijing Olympics birdcage, if you remember that. It is really the home of Ireland rugby, and Ireland is rated #1 in the world in rugby. They just won the Six Nations and had a Grand Slam, which means they beat every team in there. And ironically, it's before it was Aviva, it was Lansdowne, and that's where J.D. Bertrand's dad played his rugby when he was at secondary school. And so I'm looking forward to talking to J.D. to see what it feels like, because he's played over there before in the high school tournament. But I'm really anxious to talk to him about playing very near the pitch where his dad played rugby. And so that's a real special story. And I really got to know the Bertrands because of that Ireland connection.
Len Clark has a guide to discovering Dublin, and we recommend it highly. If you want to find it directly, we'll have a link to it at ndinsider.com. And I believe here under the podcast that we'll post here at WNDU. And Len, we thank you so much for joining us here. That's all good stuff, and I hope you won't have any hard feelings that I brought up Beavis or any of the other stuff. But no, your thing is legit. This is 100 pages, chock full. And is there one thing, though, I always like to know, I'm going to go to a new country, is there one thing I should not say if I don't want to be knocked on my keister? If that's
just
an
don't
Irish
say,
term.
are you part of the UK? But what I encourage people
Good to know.
is to go to Dublin, jump on the bus, go and see everything, and then pick the spots that you want to go to. Maybe it's the Guinness Scorehouse or Jameson, or maybe it's the city center. But just sit back, relax. Don't try to do everything. Use the guide as a planner, really to maximize your time and fun. And maybe get outside the Dublin city center and go up to Wicklow or Bray, which is in Wicklow, or out to Howth to see our friends Mark and Missy. But thank you, guys. And we'll see you in Dublin, or we'll be talking to you soon.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Len. Appreciate
Clark.
it.
Safe travels. All right, and we're back at the Pot of Gold, our final segment. This is the South Bend Tribune and NDinsider.com podcast where we talk all things Notre Dame football. Joined, more importantly, we should have mentioned earlier, by producer Jerry.
I'm just here. Don't worry. I just look good. That's all I'm here for is to look good.
No, Gerald Hopkins.
He's got the facial hair to make up for both of us right now. So
this is TV magic. That's why I'm here. It's just for TV purposes.
I heard that beards were good to have on podcasts, and then
good for podcasts, bad for TV. That's exactly where I fall in the middle.
There you go. All right, you might want to button your shirt.
No. Then everyone says my shirt's buttoned too high. Because look, now I look like a dweeb.
Yeah, a dweeb.
Just sit a little. Just do what I'm doing. I have the same problem. Just put your face real close to the camera.
Right. Wear an undershirt. That helps too.
I am Mike Berardino. I'm a Notre Dame football beat writer. And I'm joined here as well by Austin Huff, our crack all things general assignment and the king of all high school sports in this area. And we'll get to that in a second here at South Bend Tribune. And let's not forget, off camera, not pictured, we have engineer Brandon Cush, who wants us to keep this last segment really tight because he's got a life to lead, and we're going to let him do that.
Yes.
He's the one person here who has somewhere else he'd like to be voluntarily.
No comment.
So we do want to let everybody know that this is home of the Countdown to Kickoff Notre Dame football pregame show. It will be all season for home games, right? Or road games too.
We are doing a lot of different shows this year. I'm one of the people working on it. We are going each week, every week, different times, some days on Friday, some on Saturday. It's a new look with some new features. We're really excited. First episode this Saturday, 7 p.m. this upcoming Saturday. So we're very excited for it. And we're excited for this partnership because these guys will be making an appearance in it twice.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Are you trying to drive ratings?
We apologize.
Or drive people away?
No comment.
Hey, so this segment, again, we appreciate you finding us here at Pot of Gold. We'll be doing this weekly, and we hope to settle into a particular day as we go forward. But right now, leading up to week 0, this is week 0 eve, do want to talk about the captain's choice. Notre Dame, a few days ago, came out with 4 captains. The team voted on them. 4 was, seems like a big number, but actually, over the previous 4 seasons, a total of 25 players had been named captain at Notre Dame, as many as 7 in one season. So the 4 are Sam Hartman, the quarterback, he becomes the first transfer to be named a captain at Notre Dame, and it also is his 4th consecutive choice since he closed out his Wake Forest record-setting career with 3 in a row. So he's 4-time captain, Sam Hartman. You have Joe Alt, left tackle, All-America. 3rd year, though, junior here. Likely top 5 pick in the NFL next year. So they got his captain. He was voted a captain. Sets the tone for that line. On defense, you have 2-time captain J.D. Bertrand at linebacker. And that's been kind of a trend, too, Austin, in the last decade or so. I think my stat was only like 25 all-time 2-time captains for Notre Dame, but maybe a dozen of those have come in the last decade. So when they find a good captain, they give him another chance. And that's happening for Bertrand. And then a first-time captain and well-deserved Cam Hart at cornerback. And something I wrote about in the South Bend Tribune at ndinsider.com is the fact that Cam Hart, surprisingly, is the first pure cornerback to be named a captain at Notre Dame in 20 years. You got to go back to Vontez Duff in 2003. And before that, you got to go back for a pure corner, not somebody who was a hybrid like Sean Crawford was. You have Alan Rossum back in 97. So it's and Todd Light in 90. That's it. Those are the 4 in the last half century. That stunned me. Who do you think, Austin, who surprised you that was not a 5th, who didn't make the list, and or who would you have selected if Marcus Freeman and the players came to you and said, Austin, we need one more. We need a 5th. Who's the 5th?
I think I would have picked Michael Vinson, the long snapper. The guy's been around. He's played college football as long as Sam Hartman. This is his 6th year. The guy has played, I think, every game the last 3 years at long snapper. Marty Biaggi, the special teams coach, said, I don't know if he will be voted a captain, but he is a captain in every way that he handles himself. This was before the vote 2 weeks ago. Michael Vinson would have been my pick. Personally, I thought if they were going to do a 5th captain, he would be my selection for that. It feels like he's kind of embodied the Notre Dame program, kind of came here with, maybe not an underdog type role, but, wasn't maybe expected to contribute. He's been a starter now for 3-4 years, and, he is the glue guy for that special teams unit. The long snapper has been there for played 30, 40 college football games now.
No, we love some Milk, and Milk Vincent is no doubt a leader, and so it's a team that you're not going to have a successful team without a number of people who are uncrowned captains who behave in captain-like ways.
Right.
And he's certainly a leader. The Winnetka New Trier, huge school, New Trier
Yes.
product, and
They play big boy football out there.
Yeah, so he would have been the first long snapper ever to be named. The only other special teamer, I believe, who was a captain, I wrote about that, was Tyler Newsome back in 2018.
Right,
right. And Milk Vincent has been around long enough to have
Right,
been
he played with Tyler Newsome.
Tyler Newsome gave him the nickname Milk, which
Yes.
is another story. It's perfectly fine for a family show. It's just another story. It's very complicated. Who can I pick then if they came to me, which they would never do, and said, who would you like to have as the fifth captain, Mike? We'd need one more. I'd go with the guy I wrote about this week, most recently, or a day ago, Jack Kaiser, former Mr. Indiana football.
Good pick, too.
Jack Kaiser, you could say, well, another linebacker. You already have a linebacker. Well, as recently as 2019, Notre Dame had two safeties among its captains. That was Alohi Gilman and Jalen Elliott. Excellent captains, excellent safeties. But Kaiser, I feel, and he did tell me earlier in camp that he does not expect to use that COVID bonus year at this point. So he does have another possible year to come back and maybe be the captain in 24. But he's already got his master's and a big future in analytics, business analytics, and perhaps the NFL because he's packed on the weight. Kaiser would have been my pick.
Can't go wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have plenty more material we'd invite you to check out at ndinsider.com. This podcast, we appreciate you finding us here at Pot of Gold, and we're going to continue on with the help of that guy who just buttoned his shirt.
It doesn't look any better. I want you to know it doesn't look any better.
It's better. It's less.
It's less distracting.
I'm gonna take the camera myself here. See, I have the power to do that. It just doesn't look any better. Like I do this, I do.
Yeah.
This.
Well,
Just as long as there's at least one button on, we're fine.
Just
lose any other buttons, we might be.
It's getting warm in here, anyways. I think you guys can all confirm that. So having one button down is not that bad.
I think we have our first poll question in a Pot of Gold in our new studio history, and that is: the professor was Len Clark. Should the producer Jerry/Gerald button his top button or not?
And here, I'll leave you guys with this. Here, this is unbuttoned. You can look in all its glory, every single hair, and then. It's more pressure when you do it on camera. I didn't realize how hard this would be. To button up a shirt.
It has something to do with the Missouri degree
really does.
that two of the three people here have.
I just buttoned my poll though too. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Don't ask me to do the top one; it didn't fit. So.
All right, for all the people on camera and for our engineer Brandon Cush, no relation to Frank. This has been Mike Berardino, and this has been Pot of Gold. Have a great week. We'll see you in week 0 to talk Notre Dame against Navy in Dublin.
This is ND Insider's Pot of Gold. Now, with all things Notre Dame football, here's Tom Noy, Mike Berardino, and Austin Huff.